Hey there, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I really appreciate you being here. It means a lot to me. So, sorry for the weird intro. My OSB decided to start acting really stupid for no reason. Thankfully, I keep updating it, because updates I'm sure make it better and definitely don't break the software. Yay, technology. So, anyway, so this is a fun one. I'm actually kind of looking forward to this video. Little antsy about it as well, but we'll see how it goes. I've been reading the book of Genesis lately, and part of my starting the Bible over again, doing my fifth lap, and I picked up on things that I've never noticed before. So let me get into it. Yep, as you can see, my software likes to pin itself up against my other monitor in the other screen, and at the top of the video is off screen, and I can't move it because I have to grab the top of it, which is inaccessible. Yay, technology. So anyway, yeah. So here we go. So I first started reading the Bible when I was 16 years old. I was not a Christian. I was still trying to figure things out. And I read Genesis very, very literally. Then I think about 2 years later, I finished reading the Bible. And at that point, I'd become a Christian. I was 18, almost 19 years old when I first became a Christian. So when I went back through the second time around in Genesis, that's when I started realizing, like, oh, all throughout the Old Testament, everything is incredibly symbolic. So Genesis is full of symbolism. So the next few times I read Genesis, I was like, oh man, where's the symbolism? I gotta try to figure this out. So this go around has been completely different. For the first time ever, I'm reading, well, first time ever was when I was 16, but first time since I've been a Christian that I've read the beginning of Genesis as it is literally written. And it makes a few more things make a lot more sense. So me personally, I very much enjoy science. It's kind of a passion side hobby that I like to get into. I like to find out more about the stars, nature, all this kind of stuff. So I remember watching a show by Neil deGrasse Tyson. It's the History of the Cosmos, or no, I think it's just The Cosmos. It's the name of the show is The Cosmos, and it's really good. I really, really enjoyed it. But I think it was the first episode near the beginning. He's basically walking across a calendar, and the calendar is the history of the world. And we're on like the last day, December 31st, and the past 10,000 years of human existence has been within the past couple hours on December 31st. So that's his analogy for how old the Earth is. I don't know that I agree with the age of the Earth. I don't think it's that old, because he's talking like it's hundreds of millions of years old. But in Genesis, it talks about there was day and there was night. I believe that is symbolic. I do think that is a phase. If you saw my last video about God as an artist, I leaned more into why God saw that it was good. He created something, saw that it was good. It's basically he was working on something until he got it right where he wanted it to be. He saw it was good, and then he moved on to the next phase. And the intro was, the earth was formless and void, darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was moving over the surface of the waters. So it sounds like he's physically there. He's physically hovering over the earth. And, here we go. Then God said, let there be an expanse in the midst of the waters, and let it separate waters from waters, which is interesting. I've never caught this before. The first two times I read the Bible. The third time I picked up on it, and the fourth time this kind of cements the notion. But God made the expanse and separated the waters which are below the expanse from the waters which are above the expanse, and it was so. God called the expanse heaven, and there was evening, there was morning, a second day. So basically on the second day, he created the earth as water, and then set apart the water as a second shell. I did a painting about this very topic, and it sounds like there was a dome of water that replaced the clouds. And then that theory is further further filled out later on. Where is it? The catalog, everything. So God said, let us make man in our image, rule of fish, birds. Okay, that's not it. God made female, fruitful, multiply, fill the earth, subdue it, rule of fish and seed and birds. I think it's the next chapter. I think it's chapter 2. Yeah. Sorry. I'm going to be bouncing around a little bit. So, okay. The earth was completed, done his work from the west day. This is kind of... Now, no shrub of the field... Here we go. Now, no shrub of the field was yet in the earth, and no plant of the field had yet sprouted, for the Lord God had not sent rain upon the earth, and there was no man to cultivate the ground. But instead, a mist used to rise from the earth and the whole surface of the ground. I read the Bible, this is now my 5th time, and this is the first time I ever recall reading this verse, ever. So it heavily leans into the concept that there was no such thing as rain back in the day. Rain did not exist, which would lead to believe that clouds did not exist. Therefore, it further cements the idea that there was a shell of water over the earth. So in Neil deGrasse Tyson's video, he was talking about how there was a section of earth where if you dig deep into the, oh my gosh, the layers of the earth, where you can find like the Jurassic period and whatnot. Sorry, I'm losing the word for it at the moment. But on the 3rd day, gathered in place, let dry land appear. So God created the land and then expands from the heaven. Back up. So there we go. So dry land appeared. God called the dry land earth, and gathering the waters he called the seas. God saw it was good. Then God said, let the earth sprout vegetation, plants yielding seed and fruit, and each fruit bearing kind after its own. And it was so. They brought forth vegetation, each to their own kind, yada yada. So next was lights. This is kind of a fun tidbit. Scientists today, one of the big reasons for believing in the Big Bang, I'm getting ahead of myself. So, all right, so leaves are sprouted and planted and whatnot. Then 2 days later, let the waters teem with swarms of living creatures. Let birds fly above the earth and expanse in the heavens. God created the sea monsters and every living thing that moves, which swarms and their kind, every winged bird of its kind. God thought it was good. So life didn't really happen until 2 days after vegetation happened. In Neil deGrasse Tyson's video, he was saying that there's a layer of earth where there's basically just a giant expanse of colossal trees that died, and there was no such thing as, hey Megan, there's no such thing as decay. Like bacteria, microbacteria did not exist to eat the trees to break them down. Like today, if a tree or a vegetation or plant or any living thing falls over and dies, then there's the nitrogen cycle, which will have little microscopic creatures start eating the thing, whatever it is, and it will biodegrade and it will eventually evaporate. That didn't exist back in this era. So like Neil deGrasse Tyson was saying, there's this huge section of trees. Oh, it's Ryan. Hey, Ryan. There's a huge section of trees where, they're basically just a petrified forest that never rotted. So this is kind of explained in a couple of verses later in Genesis, which I think is kind of cool. So back to, what was my other tangent? Oh, yeah. So the day before life was created, there was the lights in the expanse, there we go, of the heavens separate night from day. We can count it, whatnot. So the big reason for the Big Bang being a speculation is because all the stars in the heavens are moving at a constant and consistent trajectory away from the Earth. So it is reason to believe that the Big Bang was the center. Our Earth was near, or at least our solar system was near the center of the Big Bang. Which leads me to believe that on the second day, third day, gosh, what day is this? 1, 2, 3, fourth day. On the 4th day, I think that's when God actually created the stars in the sky. And I think the stars were significantly closer at that time and much, much brighter in the sky. Also, if you have a shell of water, they would probably be further magnified. So I bet stars were really bright and really, really big. So anyway, just a neat little tidbit. So the next bit. Okay, so that's the main gist. Another little fun factoid. I'd never read any footnotes or anything. I have a Ryrie study Bible, and when I first got my Bible, I never got into it. It was on my fourth pass through the Bible that I finally read the footnotes on this, and then the author, or not the author, the Ryrie study Bible guy, he was explaining in the footnotes that there was a shell of water over the earth, and it's like, I was thinking that last time I read that, like, God, probably 2 years ago. So I thought that was really cool. But that's this concept that I've never heard anybody ever preach on. Day 1 and day 4 reflect each other. Day 2 and day 5, day 3 and day 6. Oh yeah, that's cool. Sorry, I didn't dig that deep into it. But yeah, Ryan, I absolutely believe that. So another thing that I want to get into is in the days of Noah, sons of Adam, corruption of mankind, the flood. Here we go. Where is it? This is key. This was my big revelation that I finally had. So the show was the firmament. Oh, cool. I didn't know how to name. Where is it at? 600 years of Noah's life. Here we go. It came about after the 7 days that the waters flood came upon the earth. Wait, it came about after the 7 days that the water of flood came upon the earth, the 600 years of Noah's life in the second month. So February 17th. Same day, here we go. On the same day, all the foundations of the great deep burst open, and the floodgates of the sky were open. The rain fell upon the earth for 40 days and 40 nights. He was actually on the ark. Later on, one of the later chapters, he was on the ark for 150 days before he finally had signs of life, and they continued to rain on the ark, I think, for another 100 days after that, because there still wasn't like ample settlement. So this is where it gets deeper into my weirdo, wacky conspiracy theory. So, and I've never heard this talked about, so this is strictly from Noodle Bits, but there is a section in I believe it's chapter 2, where it talks about the rivers. Heavens and the earth completed. Search the ground, the Lord God dust. Oh yeah, so man was made from dust. In his nostrils, breath of life, became living. Here. Oh, this is another neat little tidbit. The Lord God planted a garden towards the east in Eden, and there he placed man, whom he had formed. So this is clearly the Garden of Eden. And I always wondered, like, hey, I wonder, like, does the Garden of Eden still exist today? Is that really a thing? And I thought, like, probably got wiped out with the flood. Never really gave it too much thought after that. But the more I realized, this is the only location that's given in Genesis. And it's distinctly to the east, which if, let's say, the center of the earth was the center of civilization, to the east of that would have been approximately China. And I didn't mean to say it like that, China. And during the exploratory years of the 1800s, explorers went over to China and found what they called Shangri-La, which is this wildly exotic jungle. Today, the Chinese government declares this section of China to be illegal to enter into because it's so wild. The wilderness is so great that if you go there, it basically will kill you. So instead of having to deal with the government going and rescuing people that get stuck in this wilderness, they instead are like, we're just going to make it illegal. You can't go there. If you go there, you're going to die, and we're not going to save you. So at least that's what I remembered hearing a few years ago. I'm not sure what the law is now. But anyway, that is, it's in the heart of the densest jungle in China, which is to the east of the center of what would have been the world at that time. So if I'm guessing, if the middle was where things were first established, to the east of the middle would be China. Anyway, random little tidbit. I thought that was cool. Sorry, I said I was going to do a deep dive. That was not the deep dive. That was just a neat little fun fact of something else that I believe. Another thought experiment. So, out of the ground, every tree, pleasing good. Okay. Now, here we go. Now, a river flowed out of Eden to water the garden, and from there it divided, and it became 4 rivers. The name of the first is Fishon. probably saying that wrong. It flows through the whole land of Halavaya, where there is gold, which is interesting. And I'll circle back around to that. The gold of that land is good, and bdellium and the onyx stones, they are there. The name of the second river is Gihon, and it flows around the whole land of Cush. The name of the third river is Tigris. It flows east of Assyria, and the fourth river is Euphrates. Every time I read Genesis before that, my mind just checked out. It's like, oh cool, I don't know where these places are. I know Tigris and Euphrates, I've heard of Assyria, so those exist. And then this go around, I actually looked in the footnotes, and there is no record of the other two rivers existing anywhere. And here's the interesting bit. It says earlier, or not earlier, it says later during the days of, no, I'm not going to keep jumping around. It says the great depths of the ocean came up and flooded the earth. I believe that these two rivers, okay, so let me back up real quick. So modern day science, scientists believe in the supercontinent known as Pangaea. Pangaea is basically the earth used to be a, I wouldn't say perfect, but pretty close to being perfect round, can't say ball, disc, there we go. So supercontinent, there was a disc called Pangaea. I believe these two rivers flowed along the cracks of what is basically eastern North America and South America, and along the coast of Africa. And the other portion, the other river, was in the southwest corner where Antarctica and Australia are located. So the area that was full of gold, where the gold of the land is good, the bdellium and the onyx stones are there. Bdellium is a type of beryl, which is a resin. So if there's a whole layer of trees way deep down, there's probably a lot of resin that would produce. And I bet this river could go deep enough to get into it. And the fact that this was during like the early days of mankind, everything was like super fresh, super new. There wasn't a lot of need for things like gold because that became more relevant as currency and civilization became more relevant. So why was this a factor? And my realization came to this. I was watching a video from this YouTuber called Tier Zoo, which is really entertaining. It's basically he takes different animals, different species, and looks at what if it was a video game? Like what if you're playing like an octopus build? Here are your specs, and these are your evolution points and how you can level up your character and what the octopus has become good at. And the whole thing is really interesting. It's a cool, neat take, but in his video specifically about the octopus is genuinely one of the most intelligent creatures on the planet. So in fact so that like some scientists speculate that octopi are actually aliens. I don't buy that, but it's interesting. The biggest downfall of octopi, and the reason why they're not like advanced or anything like that, is because they have such a short lifespan. And that's the edge that humans have over octopi and also dolphins and other highly intelligent creatures, is because we have a longer lifespan and we also have the ability to create things because we have, the opposable thumb. We can grab things, make tools. Dolphins do not have that. They have a better lifespan, but octopi, they have the ability to do that. Anyway, long story short, getting ahead of myself. If humans live to be over 900 years old on average, to where middle age is like 450, you'd be the equivalent of like 40 years old at the age of 450. Do you know how much you could get done in a lifetime if you lived to be over 900, like close to 1,000 years old? And you have the intelligence of humans. And all throughout, later in the chapters, I'm not going to get into it, but if you look in the later bits of the chapters, it clearly shows that cultivation was a thing, irrigation, and also domestication of cattle and livestock. So if you had the ability to take care of yourself, maintain yourself through food and whatnot, and you had plenty of resources to build shelter, what are you going to do with the rest of that time? Except like start creating stuff, coming up with new ideas. And if you have the lifespan to do it, holy cow, could you get a lot done? The other thing is, this is probably worth bringing up. Fall of Man, here we go. Chapter 3. So, fall of Adam and Eve. Later on, the Lord God, behold, no, okay, that's not it. So I think it's chapter 4. So Cain and Abel, Adam had relationship. Okay. Well, actually, this could come in handy later. But anyway, Adam and Eve, they had Cain and Abel. Famously, Cain killed Abel, as is commonly known. But they popped out another kiddo named Seth. And Seth had a whole genealogy. And Seth basically replaced Abel. And he was like the good kid again. But anyway, oh gosh, I'll circle back around to that in a minute. Sons of Adam, we're getting into genealogy. Okay. I want to find it. Maybe it was in chapter 6 the whole time. Corruption of mankind. Of course it was here. I feel like a dum-dum. Anyway, God got upset because man had populated the earth so much. God was like, man, you guys live pretty long time. I should probably curb that. See if maybe we can shorten that up a bit by like 10%. So you only get to live 120 years at max. And then if you notice after the flood, Noah, or the ancestors of Noah, lived shorter and shorter lifespans all the way up until Abraham. Abraham lived to be 176, and his descendants, or his ancestors before him, all lived to be in the 200s. So the lifespan of mankind was continually decreasing. Oh, that was another thing. The firmament, or the shell of water over the earth, there was another episode, or another portion of Neil deGrasse Tyson's video where he's talking about the insects of the earth, the crawly things, were colossal in size. And this is where I'm going to tie a couple things in together. So, since God was upset with the lifespan of humans because they could accomplish so much in such a short, or I wouldn't say short period of time, but the fact they could live for so long, get so much done, they could pump out kids like rabbits and populated the entire earth because these guys don't die. I mean, they eventually die. But the other thing is they all spoke the same language. So if everybody on Earth could speak the same language, we were all on the same page, and we all lived like close to 1,000 years old and all had our basic needs taken care of, yeah, we could get a lot done. And I remember I tried to find it before the live stream, and I couldn't quite find it. I want to think it was in Revelations, but there was a verse that says there's no new thing under the sun. Like, everything that exists today has existed before, and anything that will exist in the future has already existed in the past. So today, we have things like television, space travel, industrial manufacturing, all this kind of stuff. And I have reason to believe that that existed back then. I believe that they became technologically advanced at such a rate that they were able to catch up to that. What's interesting about the rivers that I mentioned earlier is the two rivers that broke off. Oh, I didn't fully get into that. They were land of good gold. The land is good, and bdellium and onyx stones were there. I admittedly don't know the properties of bdellium, or basically beryl, and onyx, but I can't help but to wonder if maybe the combination of gold and those two minerals are what helped propel any kind of technological advances they might have had. If that were the case, I could see reason for them to want to dig deeper into the earth and dig and basically mine these rivers and go deep, literally. And I believe that they got to a point where they might have been able to master. Holy cow, this is already a 25-minute live stream. I might do a part 2. I'm going to do a part 2. Yeah, let's just do that. This is going way too long. So yeah, leave a comment if you would like to see a part 2 of this. I'm going to leave it in suspense there, but I believe that our ancient ancestors probably mastered space travel, and I believe it had something to do with these 3 ingredients. But yeah, that's all I've got for today. Yeah, stay classy, and see you in the next one.